Welcome everyone to the Crystal Virtual Tribute. It's been more than 400 days since the world as we knew it changed completely. That means it's also been more than 400 days since our community came together in the spirit of solidarity and science and showed up like never before. Confronted with the greatest healthcare challenge of our time, Mount Sinai physicians, nurses, and staff led the fight against COVID-19. Everyone was fully aware of the risk to their own lives and health. These heroes, and that's what they really are, heroes, did everything to protect their patients and communities. Nurses went beyond the call of duty, taking on extra shifts and overtime. Doctors overcame unprecedented challenges, doubling up patients in rooms and fighting to secure enough ventilators to keep the severely ill alive. Scientists and physicians worked tirelessly to discover the very best treatments. And many of you made generous donations to make sure our staff had the PPE and housing we needed to save lives and to facilitate our science. Day in and day out, through the terrifying early weeks and the heartbreaking months that followed, through the deepest depths of the pandemic, and still to this day, our staff dealt with unspeakable tragedies. I still remember an email I got from a nurse that read, "I just finished a 12-hour shift, and I can't believe what I've seen." 3 patients under her care had died during that single shift, a number that would have seemed unthinkable before the pandemic. And when that shift ended, that nurse went home to her family full of fear of getting them sick too. But this story isn't complete without telling about the miracles our staff performed. Our doctors, nurses, and nurse practitioners, and medical assistants saved thousands of lives. Our clinicians made some of the biggest breakthroughs in how to improve patient outcomes and to treat the virus. And it was Mount Sinai virologists who developed the nation's first antibody test. That's why tonight we need to take a moment, pause, and pay tribute to how the Mount Sinai family collectively responded to this crisis and how we emerged stronger from it. The video you're about to see is a small sample of the good people across the Mount Sinai Health System who worked on the front lines every day. These women and men not only saved lives, they saved the city we love.
All right, so how'd you do after the first dose?
Just that's it.
That's it? Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, little pinch. Okay, doing good. Nice job.
Good.
So 2 out of 2 done. I hear a lot of things when I vaccinate people. I hear a lot of thank yous.
Thank you.
I hear a lot of, I can't believe this is happening. I had somebody almost pass out on me yesterday because she was just in so much shock that she was actually getting a vaccine and that she could come out of her house again at some point in the next, hopefully, 6 months. I never see myself as a hero. I just see myself as somebody that's doing the job that they signed up for. I knew I always wanted to help people, even as a little kid, and I didn't know that would be through nursing. But once I decided that, I knew that, I was signing up to help people no matter what the circumstance was, and so I was just being called to duty. So I don't necessarily consider myself a hero. I just feel like I'm somebody who stepped up when I had to step up, and I was just doing what I was born to do. We have turned the corner. We still have a lot of work to do, but we sure have. All right, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Now you are officially vaccinated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's the fastest, longest year I've ever lived. It seems like every day there's a 1-year anniversary. A 1-year anniversary when I was sick, A 1-year anniversary when I took care of my first patient, a 1-year anniversary when I experienced my first death from COVID, 1-year anniversary when my colleagues went out sick.
So we're headed to 9 West, where I formerly worked during the height of COVID, and it's still a COVID unit and a step-down ventilator unit. So here we are. Hey, Stevie. Hey, Sandy, how are you? Hey, how are you? This is Jennifer. She comes from another unit to help us.
And that's my most amazing manager of all time.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's very nice. These are all the people that I worked with for so long and really stepped up during the pandemic and took great care of people, and I miss them dearly. You know, we're still very connected. And a lot of the memories of the COVID come back when you see the signs on the doors and the doors closed and all the people in their garb, their gown, their masks, their shields. It brings back a lot of memories.
Well, there was a sense of foreboding.
The air was thick with apprehension. The air was thick with the unknown, this sense of death, that the sense that there were people that were going to come through our hospital that we lacked the tools at the time to save.
If you think about that time, I mean, you didn't know if you were going to live or die.
So this is our ambulance bay. And this is the rock garden. A couple of our ED nurses came up with the idea of staff painting the rocks in memorial of the patients that we took care of, our colleagues that we lost. And that's what this represents. So this garden was put together. This was what we call a garden of hope, a memorial for all that we went through.
When I came into work each day, my mind was racing. I was thinking about what my game plan was. I was thinking about how the night went. I was thinking about how the people were gonna feel that worked overnight. I was thinking about our sickest patients and if they made it through the night, what my priorities were gonna be when I got there, what supplies did I have to check on, what did I need to go get, what did we need to order.
What is the right equipment that our staff need? What is the right protective equipment? How do you wear it? How long can you wear it? What is the right treatment protocols? Pulling together the great experts across our health system and great clinical minds, and then marry that with what we were seeing clinically with the patients in New York.
So this is our critical care room. This is where most of the action was a year ago. So we were doing a lot of intubations here, but eventually we got overwhelmed here, and we would have to actually now see intubating patients everywhere, on the hallways, in the closed room space that we have. So we essentially had to now do the job, the critical functions here. So we had to adapt to that.
I think the oh my God moment was how rapidly the virus started to infect so many people. So it went from just a few patients rapidly to hundreds of patients, and at one point over 2,000 patients in our healthcare system.
We diagnosed our first case on March 9th. By March 16th, we were doubling the cases of COVID that we were diagnosing every 2 to 3 days. By April 1st, we had 260 patients, of which 220 had COVID.
That was, in a sense, wow, this is really hitting us. It's on a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Are we going to be able to respond?
My oh my God moment was when we looked at our models and they said, you know what, in 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to be overwhelmed. And there is the potential for patients who need us not getting the care that they needed. There's the potential for people dying on a line trying to get into an emergency room because we're just that overwhelmed.
Almost 50% of the patients in the hospital required oxygen. We had so much oxygen requirements, we had to bring in an oxygen tanker.
At one point, we're all COVID, and we even opened up a COVID ICU pretty much overnight.
The staff themselves were so exhausted. You can see the rims of the headbands and eye protectors that they would wear. You could see them hunched over, exhausted. It was a proverbial war zone, and no one's ever trained for that.
We always felt like we weren't moving fast enough.
My mantra is, this too shall pass. So to me, it was just wake up, go do it, come back, get some rest as best as you can, wake up, go do it, come back, and just let that cycle go on. And I always knew in the back of my mind that this has to stop at some point.
There was an angel looking out for me, making sure that I didn't get sick and I didn't run out of fuel, and I just kept going to serve my purpose.
We couldn't be in denial. We couldn't say, it's not going to be that bad. We'll just get through it, doing what we normally do. We actually had to grapple with this idea that in order for us to get through this, to help our city through this, we were going to have to behave in ways we had never behaved before.
I have to tell you, I was so gratified by the response from our trustees and our broader community that people stepped up.
One of the top priorities was supporting the frontline workers. Everybody had enormous empathy for them and respect. Trustees just wanted to know what they could do to help out.
This wasn't even a case of, well, do I give, do I not give? This was, how much can I give?
Those funds came in, and I immediately resourced those monies to our scientists that were doing groundbreaking research that ultimately saved lives. And without that philanthropy that was so immediately available, that would not have happened.
The Annenberg building is coming out of the fog. There's the hope. Yeah, so this is the Annenberg building, and microbiology is mainly there on the 16th floor. And that's where we do our lab work and where we develop our vaccines. I think the most important thing that happened in the building is that we went to work every day during the pandemic, and we didn't stop working on different strategies to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. You're in part of my lab, which is actually doing a lot of serology, meaning antibody testing for SARS coronavirus 2. But we also do a lot of work on influenza in here, but it's mostly figuring out antibody responses of people to viruses. Our laboratory was the first lab in the United States to have a test to figure out if somebody has antibodies to SARS coronavirus 2 or not. And then we transferred that test to our clinical laboratory, and so Mount Sinai was the first hospital in the United States to have a test to actually measure antibody responses and figure out if somebody already had an infection.
We felt that we were in time of war, and except that the weapons was our science. So in that sense, it was quite beautiful. Imagine myself and the teams being in this big war against an enemy, and we were fighting together, and that I was leading that effort.
The one really gap in our knowledge right now is when somebody does have COVID-19, what can we do when they have advanced disease? Within a period of even a week, we were opening up clinical trials, looking at potent anti-inflammatories, and we enrolled over 1,400 individuals, giving them convalescent plasma.
I think the essence of what my lab did and what research in general did during these last 15 months, we made an impact on people's life, and that's something that you don't see very often in research, that within a very short period of time what you do in the lab starts to matter in people's lives.
It's been such a crazy year. I think there's been so many ups and downs, and I think medical students, myself included, have had a really unique view on the pandemic. It was really scary at first, to be honest. We had our classes, our clerkships were canceled on March 15th, and the very next day I had a meeting with our senior leadership of our medical school to really talk about how we can mobilize students to help out in our health system, which really was needing that help and that extra support.
Last year, at the height of everything, how many people were volunteering in the workforce?
We had 530 people, over 530 people, I think that was the number. And then at the end of that 3-month period, we had over 30,000 hours logged actually by students, which is so incredible. I mean, it was phenomenal. One of our major goals as part of the student workforce was we saw voids in the healthcare system that we could fill. We would do our best, we would do our utmost to try to fill them. There were new unexpected holes, like giving patients their COVID test results back because there's major delays in getting these back. Major holes such as personal protective equipment and sourcing donations and offers from different suppliers. Another hole that we found that we had a really big turnout in filling was the pharmacy task force, where the pharmacies actually were under a lot of stress and they were understaffed.
We set up tents in Central Park. Students were there literally constructing the tents. Being able to set up those individual clinical kiosks from an IT perspective.
They needed people in like one day to get these up. And 120 students I think responded and came out to help with it. In fact, there's so many people that came out that if you weren't one of the first few people, and they did it so fast that if you came like 2 or 3 hours later, it was all done.
Right. Okay. So you can take this and then you can just head right into the tent.
Okay, thank you.
If a year ago, somebody said this is like what medical school is going to look like your first year, I mean, like, I wouldn't believe it. Nobody would have believed it.
Looking back on the past year and everything that has happened, I think the one word that really stands out to me, I think, is community. For me as a medical student, I really got to understand kind of what that means.
We really came of age as a health system during COVID. Our ability to move patients from hospital to hospital, to move supplies, and to consider everything as a continuous whole rather than as discrete individual campuses, that made a huge difference. And that work that was done at the system level was one of the keys to our success.
This hospital was on the front lines of COVID. 5 of the worst zip codes that surround this hospital were 5 of the top 10 or 20 worst zip codes in New York City.
The moment of true worry was on a Saturday morning when we were talking to all of our hospitals, and one of the hospital presidents said, "Oh no, we're about to implode." And it took me a moment to say, what are we gonna do?
It was hard enough to be a leader during a pandemic and a massive crisis like this. But on March 23rd, 2020, I also came down with COVID. The whole management team had COVID, and it would have been impossible to run the hospital if we didn't bring down some leadership. We realized that we didn't have enough staff to take care of these patients.
I went back to what the strength of this organization was. We're all in this together, and I made a couple of phone calls, and you know what? We had a plan for that hospital within a couple of hours. A number of Mount Sinai uptown individuals got in their cars and went to the hospital to fill in the gaps.
We were able to bring in 200 staff from the Mount Sinai Health System to come down and help the staff here. In particular, we brought in nursing staff from New York Eye and Ear. We brought in physicians, hospitalists, surgeons from the Mount Sinai Health System. They came here, they worked in our ICU, they worked in our emergency department to help take care of patients.
It was a moment of just epiphany that none of us are in this by ourselves.
I will go so far as to say that had we not been connected to Mount Sinai, we probably would have not survived.
We were so agile in moving patients around and frankly moving staff around as well. We were able to level load. We could make sure that we were using every bed and every staff person and all our equipment optimally across the entire system.
We would look at what the needs were across the health system, and it was, basically mix and match. How many of this type of discipline do you need at this hospital? How many of that type of discipline?
I think that's one of the reasons we were able to pivot in our very early successes in treating patients with anticoagulation to prevent clotting disorders, learning how to manage with oxygen before intubation. There were many things that were really pioneered at Mount Sinai, and those ideas spread quickly.
We would not have been able to secure the PPE. We would not have been able to secure the durable medical equipment that we needed to physically outfit this organization to handle the wave that was hitting us. We would not have survived the experience had we not had the advantages of balancing patients across the system.
Beth Israel had this opportunity to serve a really unique function, to try to decant as many patients as we could from our hospitals in Queens and Brooklyn that were really overwhelmed.
New York Icahn played a pivotal role in the Mount Sinai Health System response to COVID because we were able to be a resource to the other hospitals. Hundreds of our dedicated physicians, nurses, and other staff were redeployed to other hospitals in the Mount Sinai Health System.
I really did believe that we would really get through this. We would get through this if we worked together.
What the health system did, huge, huge, huge.
The most important question is, what did we learn from this? Did any good have come out of this? I think so. The hospital's galvanized. The bonding that occurred has made us stronger as a hospital.
And I think that was the secret to why nobody imploded, because everybody else wouldn't let them.
Oh my God moment. Well, when one of my PAs got sick. And he didn't just get sick, he got really sick. PA Lee, Jimmy Lee, he's a hardworking member of the department. When I say hardworking, I don't use that word lightly. When the department was short-staffed, he would always step in. He would do multiple night shifts in a row, and he will continuously do it. He was someone who will do 21 clinical shifts in a month, which is brutal in any emergency department. But he did it willingly.
No problem, bye-bye.
He was actually sort of the heart and soul. He exemplified what Mount Sinai Queens is a community hospital.
This is the first time ever that I was in a cardiac room as a patient that I'm not really used to it. I remember the respiratory therapist was like, I think you need to be intubated. I know what intubation means. I never expect I'm the one that's going to be intubated.
I remember leaving his room that day and going into the bathroom and sort of looking at myself in the mirror and saying, please, just God, not Jimmy. Just please not him.
I remember I was telling my wife that they're going to intubate me. And then she was breaking down. She was like, please be strong. Please get through this. I love you. And I remember all I can say is, I love you too. Just take care of Cassie and Kenneth, which is my two kids.
As a department, we sort of felt like this was a defining moment. You saw that grief, you saw that angst, you saw that uncertainty, and the concern was like, well, I could be the next Jimmy Lee. And so how do you get over that? But we have to stand fast. We have to say, hey, he's in our prayers, let's go.
The next thing I remember is someone whispering on my ear and said that they're going to take the tube out.
When we talk about Mount Sinai Queens, it is a story of people who potentially could be forgotten. We are immigrants. We are first generation. We are second generation. We are essential workers, children of essential workers, and we are children of people who work hard. And so that's the heart. We are the community we serve, and so I think that reflects in what we do.
My first day back to work, I don't feel like that I missed a beat, because I feel like that I walk right back to where I love and what I love to do. I want to thank my team. I feel it in my heart that that's how I get better. I don't even want to call them my team, and they are quite frankly my family. I won't be the person I am today if it wasn't for them. And I won't be the person here that talking to you if it wasn't for their prayer that I get through all this.
Good morning. Looks like it's gonna be a nice day today.
You really did have to pivot in many ways. We changed the way we did things, whether it was medical treatment or communicating with families. We had to relook at everything again. I spoke with most of my social workers and I said, can you find out 3 things about them next time you speak with the family if I don't get to speak with them? And one of the first things his wife said was that he just became a grandfather before he went into the hospital and he hasn't met his grandson yet. And then she told me he liked to play poker. And then he'd love to go to Atlantic City to play poker. And I thought, that's fun. In our particular unit, we didn't have doors on our rooms. But as we were retrofitted for COVID, instead of walls, we had plexiglass. And we would use a dry erase marker. And we wrote that on our clear boards so that people who are caring for these patients would know that they're not just a person sick with COVID. They have lives and families out there who they're looking to get back to, and they have things they want to do in their life. They're not done yet. We're here for them, and we're going to be here for them, and that it's going to be okay, and that we're going to do everything we can. You go that little extra step.
All right, I'll be back. I'll see you in a few minutes.
I see myself and the other chaplains as essential workers in this crisis. We've been here throughout and really working on the front lines.
Hi, Jill. Thank you. Hi, Miss Jenkins. Hi, I'm Chaplain Amy. How are you doing today?
The pandemic has been a struggle for all of humanity and for every single human being. And how do we make sense of that? How do we keep going day to day?
So let us pray together. Okay.
We've played a part in helping people, whether it's listening to the struggle or providing words of comfort or words of hope.
Dear God, Heavenly Father, we gather in prayer this day for Ms. Jenkins, for her health. Heal her body, her mind, her spirit. Continue to nourish her in well-being.
One of the decisions we made early on was that if we could, as chaplains, we provide spiritual, religious, and emotional support. For the most part, we would stand outside the rooms with a loved one on the phone and be holding it up to see their loved one in the room, or to be just outside the room saying prayers.
Continue to bless the hands of her doctors and nurses and amazing medical team here at Mount Sinai.
We're a beacon of light. That, for me, means that we see the light in the person we're with, and sometimes that person can't see that light within themselves. I could listen to the people on different nursing teams, just the level of death that was happening there. Where is God in the midst of this? There was quite a few staff members who died, and to be able to help the teams, the departments keep going, because they have to get back to work, and how to make room to remember our humanity.
For Ms. Jenkins, may she find some rest today and some peace, and feel your Holy Spirit upon her.
At Mount Sinai, there's such a commitment to caring for the whole person, body, mind, spirit.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hi, boss. How are you today, sir? You good? Oscar, you good? Good morning, sir. How are we today? Are we good? I'm here 11 years. This last year, I've seen a lot. I've cried a lot. I worried a lot for families who couldn't see their family. You know, they couldn't see their parent, their mother, their daughter, their grandmother. Now you have to put a dam at the door. Put your brakes on. No, I'm sorry, you can't come in. What do you mean I can't come in? Now they'll get confrontational. You had to find the right words to calm them. You have to comfort the family over the phone because they can't come in. And then you hear them screaming and being emotional and crying, and there's nothing you can do. You can't even hug them, you know, just to calm them. I kind of went back to my training when I first came on to the police department. I was 19 years old when I came on. And you learn stuff that you don't think that you'll ever even use again in your life, you know? But with the training that I received there, I thought of stuff that they taught me, ways to handle anger, ways to speak to people. Here, come on. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna speak to the young lady. Come on, I'm gonna show you. Let's figure it out together. We'll figure it out together, okay? You're very welcome. You have to learn to read that, body movement, tone of voice. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Have a great day and good luck. Once you learn that, it's kind of an easy thing to decipher. And that'll lead you to say the right things and how to speak to people. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. The language is very important. Wording is, that was the epitome of everything. You had to learn how to speak and say the right words because you don't want to upset them because they're going through a trauma already. So it's just learning a couple of phrases here and there of which will make someone feel a little better. My story is important because my team is important. We keep Mount Sinai safe, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that my team is able to help anyone and everyone that walks through these doors every day.
What are you doing, Mo? Good boy. Oh, you're pushing me.
Moby and I did a wide array of things during the pandemic. We visited a lot of the staff respite areas that were put in place as part of a wellness reach to make sure that all of our staff were feeling okay enough to come to work every day. That's where staff could go, and that's where Moby and I went.
Good boy, Mo.
If you're putting yourself in the shoes of a healthcare worker during this past year, it's just nonstop.
What's happening? What's happening? Go say hi. Go, go.
It's every single day, every single hour, and it's a lot. It's a lot to hold on to.
Good boy, Mom.
Go, guys. I have more pictures of my own mother.
We went to Mount Sinai, Brooklyn, and I remember walking into the hospital and just kind of feeling the energy and the fear and the pain. But when Moby and I entered the space that they dedicated for us, the amount of tears and emotion that people just exuded when they saw him, you just felt everything be released and just go down from there in a way of like, okay, you could breathe for 5 minutes. Our mental health is essential. And by meeting that need with Moby and focusing on staff resilience and well-being, that makes it essential.
This job means the world to me.
To be able to give back and to meet the needs of our staff that are literally putting their lives at risk every single day is an invaluable position. It's an invaluable job. To be human again and to be playful and to connect with a dog, I think is really, really special.
We definitely had a lot of loss, and it hit in very personal ways.
So Linda, how you been dealing with things in this COVID-19 season? How you and your family doing?
It's been a challenging for me because I've lost a loved one behind COVID.
Terrible.
I mean, we still, by the grace of God, we still gotta move on. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm dealing with it.
I live in Central Harlem, and I've been associated with this church since 1986. So it's literally going on 35 years. May will make 35 years.
There's a lot that still has to be done to change the differences in the way the burden of disease impacts the people of color.
COVID has ripped off the Band-Aid and shown all of us who gets sick and who dies in America when the pandemic hits.
In the midst of the pandemic, it became clear that people of color were disproportionately getting infected and having bad outcomes. And we didn't know why. We needed to respond to that immediately.
People aren't sick because they didn't try hard enough or they didn't behave well enough. People are sicker because they live in a place or are treated in a way that it's much harder to stay healthy. And if COVID taught us one thing, that's what COVID taught us.
And in the shortest period of time, we decided that we were going to organize this institute. And the thinking that I had was we want to organize this not for research's sake, but we're interested in outcomes. We're interested in making changes to not only our community, but then to society broadly.
And that's where Icahn can come in and help people move forward.
The Institute for Health Equity Research was established to give us a place where we could all come together and really elevate the work to the next level.
So when COVID came around, we immediately reached out to our community partners. We started building a survey with people in communities where they were helping us as research partners, saying these are the kind of questions we want you to ask. You need to ask about anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder.
What Icahn is doing is listening to community, building tools, asking community what they think, and then really going back and forth in dialogue, as opposed to this very kind of top-down, we got it, we figured it out, you do this, and life will be better.
Now we're building an amazing, amazing initiative where we're training peers to use different kinds of modalities to improve mental health and well-being in our priority communities, specifically focusing on Black adults in New York City.
As someone who's been involved with Mount Sinai for a number of years, I can't think of a better place to do that. I can't think of a better institution to address some of these issues and get the conversation going.
Good, man. Thank you. Brother Bill, good to see you. All's well? God bless you, man. I think we're all reminded that our calling is one that makes a difference in people's lives. It's about eternity, but it's also about living here and being able to not just manage, but thrive.
Before COVID, I was actually in one of the best spots of my adult life. I ran marathons. I was at my physically fittest and strongest. I was absolutely phenomenal.
That was my running path. I always start right there. My running team, we used to meet right here. Then we would do the entire loop.
I was looking forward to the future and what everything entailed. My family had to take care of me because I was so ill. And initially the connection was not made that it was post-COVID. So I just kept getting told that it was in my head as I was getting sicker and sicker. Getting dismissed is just, it's crushing. It really is. Because you really do feel hopeless. So That's how it felt, hopeless.
The mission was to provide post-COVID care, meaning long-term care for patients who had a COVID infection and now having long-term symptoms due to the initial COVID infection.
My first appointment, my doctor, Dr. Bosco, was just so phenomenal.
Hey,
hi, Dr. Bosco. I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good. Once I started with Sinai, I was given steroids. I felt a difference. Physical therapy. I was advised to go on an anti-inflammatory diet. I was given care and some semblance and guidance. They provided a roadmap to physical therapy that my physical therapist follows to assure that I'm progressing on my recovery.
Our rehabilitation program is really focused on retraining the nervous system to be able to tolerate slowly climbing heart rates and just pushing right up to the limit without pushing beyond the limit.
Everybody has a story and we all need some sort of help. And boy, did I need help. So I'm actually very glad that I ended up at Mount Sinai.
When I first met you, you had the cane. Yeah. So definitely a lot of progress has been made.
They are absolutely a huge portion of my story when it comes to this recovery process.
I've never been the first in anything. It's going to be almost a year, 11 months in a few days, since I was going through all these nightmares. Everybody asks me if my life has changed since all this happened, and I said, everybody's life has changed. 2021 is a new beginning for me. I'm so thankful to be alive, to be able to be home, and so thankful to all the staff, doctors and nurses at Mount Sinai West. And most of all to God for allowing me this second chance, which not everybody was so lucky to get.
We definitely loved Rodrigo. We were all rooting for him in terms of his recovery and discharge from the hospital. We were overworked and we were tired, but Rodrigo kept us going, gave us a purpose and meaning in terms of what we do day in and day out.
When I went into the hospital, COVID was something that we didn't talk about. And then when I went out of the hospital at the end of April, it's a new world. The world didn't know, and doctors didn't know. I was the first patient, and they were going to try their best.
Rodrigo's story is a story of strength. It's a story of hope. It's a story of humanity. I think this unprecedented times really brought our strength, that we could come and work as a team and fight this thing. And we're stronger that we're able to do it together and work as one hospital.
Rodrigo, it was our pleasure and privilege to take care of you.
Yes.
You are a wonderful patient.
Yes, you're
and
a wonderful human being.
I think the people that walk among us have really given their best and dug deep and found inspiration and found bravery to do what they needed to do at a time when it was needed the most. We'll continue to give our best each and every day.
It's all about people. And I think it's important that we allow them to tell their stories and for people to know that we had a lot of heroes here.
There are people who care and people who really make a difference. And most of us are not necessarily visible to the outside world.
I've learned that when it's called for, I can step up, I could show up. I recognized that when it was really, really necessary and your back was against the wall, we were able to meet that.
I tell my mom every morning I go to kiss her, and when I go to bed at night, I kiss her and I said, Mom, we are so fortunate, so blessed, and so happy. And I make her repeat that because I do feel that way.
We want to heal the world. We want to make people better. We want to prevent disease. We do it out of love.
I guess I'm in the same trajectory as the world. Everything just toppled over, and now we're rebuilding again, so here we go.
It is really nice to see that it's springtime again. The grass is growing back. There used to be these big rectangular imprints of where the tents used to be, but you can hardly see that anymore. They've resodded it, there's robins, and it feels like everything is kind of coming back to life again.
Miracle is the fact that we were sick and every one of us be able to come home. Got my family back.
Let's just all love each other and take care of each other. We just need to work as a team and just be there for each other, hold each other up, move on, and let's see where tomorrow brings us.
I think that what I would tell people is to never lose hope. No matter how bad it is, it's going to get better.
It's a pivotal moment in the history of Mount Sinai, and I think we have a lot of things to be proud of.
The thing I would say to everybody is, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. We stand on your shoulders, and it's important for you to know how appreciative we are of everything that you've done in this past year to treat patients and to find cures.
You will look back on this time in your life with great pride, and you will say, if I could have done what I did back then in 2020 and 2021, any challenge I face later in life, I'm going to have confidence that I can overcome it.
Thank you for everything you did for me.
It's been a pleasure. We love you, and we'll stay in touch, Rodrigo, right?
Come back and visit.
Come back and visit.
For life.
For life.
Never give up. There's light after the tunnel. And it was quite a tunnel.
You saw tonight how the Mount Sinai community stepped up during the pandemic. Before we go, I also want to talk about how they did it, what made all of this possible. Of course, so much credit belongs to our unwavering staff, some of whom you heard from tonight, but others of whom you could not because they're among those we've lost during the pandemic. New York will forever remember their sacrifices. Every day our city recovers and moves forward is a tribute to their bravery and selflessness. It was made possible by the resilient community that is New York City, which supported us through it all. It was made possible by all of you and by the commitment of our co-chairmen, Richard Friedman and James Tisch. This year, more than any other, has demonstrated just how vital every donation is to sustain the health system and save lives. Thank you. And finally, the miracles that happened at Mount Sinai were made possible by the culture of this special place. Mount Sinai was founded nearly 170 years ago, not from a larger university, but as a hospital, one that only later would give birth to a school. Why does that matter? It matters because our hospital and school are inseparable. And because of that, we think first about therapeutics and diagnostics. In other words, we think first about our patients. When our students and doctors enter our campus, they enter a major hospital system. They see ambulances pull up right around the corner. They spend every day thinking about the patients they pass on the street. And it's impossible for any of us to forget why we're here or who we're here to help. From our faculty to our administration, from our labs to our exam rooms, everything is centered around collaborating to provide the best possible care. And that commitment put Mount Sinai at the forefront of the pandemic response. During COVID, regardless of expertise or geography or job title, every member of our community asked the same question: what needs to be done right now to help our patients? So, when our hospital in Brooklyn overflowed with people in need of care, staff across the Mount Sinai system jumped into a van and crossed a bridge to lend support. When there was a shortage of supplies, everyone pitched in to get the deliveries done. And when we needed more nursing capacity, senior physicians reported to nurses to help patients. What propelled us was our belief in one another and your belief in us. Our community, which has been through so much, has never been stronger. That's why, while we may not be together in Central Park tonight, I know we'll gather again soon under the same tent. We'll overcome this pandemic and we'll do it together. Thank you, and I can't wait to see you all next year in person.